So the film is actually a story of the new generation in India today. And I grew up in Delhi myself, and I had heard about this mythical magical drug, M cream, in the hills. And I had a lot of friends who had made this journey in search of this magical drug. And so I thought this was an interesting premise to actually make a film about the new generation in India today. And so the film is essentially that. It's a portrait of the new generation, and it's a story about these four friends who set out from Delhi and in search of this magical drug.
Okay, on what ground you zeroed on the stars of the film?
So we realized early on that we didn't want to go with the typical stars or celebrity film actors, because the story is actually it's a very realistic story, and it's also a story where there's a lot of subtext. So we needed actors who could actually bring that subtext out to the surface. So I think we were very lucky to get the cast that we do have, which is some of the best theatre actors and actresses in India today, namely Imad Shah, of course, son of Nasiruddin Shah, and Ira Dubey, who play the two leads along with Orithra Ghosh and Raghav Chanana. And then we also were very lucky to have actors like Tom Alter, who's a veteran in Bollywood, and Barry John, who's of course one of our best acting gurus and coaches. Um, we also have this wonderful French actress Beatrice O'Day, who teaches acting and theatre. So it was a very interesting and very dynamic bunch of people that I think we were able to bring on board, and all of them really saw the script, they read the script, and they really enjoyed it. So that was the idea behind
Okay, I've
that.
seen the trailer. The trailer looking really promising. Especially the most important part in the trailer, if you see, through a Indian audience point of view, the love making scene is so well planned, so well executed. Tell us, what was your brief to the actors, while shooting the entire sequence?
Both Orithra Ghosh and Raghav Chanana, who perform in the lovemaking scene, which has been creating a lot of waves. I think we had actually sat down and had a discussion with them both, and I think the three of us really I mean, we did realize that it was important to depict this scene, and because this film is essentially a film about the new generation today in all its glory, and I mean, of course, there's the drugs, there's the sex, and the rebellion, and we wanted to show a very realistic side to that. We didn't want to sugarcoat it. We didn't want to beat around the bush. And I think as actors, they were brave enough to push the envelope. And of course, we discussed it. And we have shown the film in various film festivals where people have commented on this scene as well. And I think a lot of people have, I mean, of course, been taken aback because you haven't seen a scene like this in Indian cinema before. But of course, I think it's very aesthetically done. It's very powerful. And the other lovemaking scene also with Imad Shah and Ira Dubey equally, I think, was we discussed that as well. And of course, I mean, you have to leave it up to the actors, but we had actors who were willing to, push the envelope, and both Orithra and Raghav really were on board with that. And I think, I think these are the actors who are really going to change Indian cinema and the landscape of Indian cinema with their willingness to experiment and their bravery, essentially. I had, of course, discussed the sex scene with both Orithra and Raghav, and we all were on the same page. And earlier on, they'd also said that they were willing to, push the envelope, because this is an indie film, it's a radical film, and we wanted to obviously, kind of push the boundaries of Indian cinema, to put it plainly, and of course, do it in a way that's aesthetic and that's true to the story. So initially, of course, they were a bit awkward and hesitant, and so we, had ordered a bottle of wine for everyone to relax and chill out and just go over it. And I think both of them were willing to kind of like really, push the envelope. I think, of course, Orithra was a little more hesitant, understandably so, than Raghav. But both of them kind of, I mean, they were initially awkward, but once we started rolling, I think they really were able to get into the scene. And I mean, it was an incredible performance, as you can tell once you see the film. But I think they really got it in the first take, pretty much, and we didn't really have to work too much with that. It really, I mean, it was amazing. It just happened, and I think I really do commend both of them, because they were brave enough to do a scene like this, and I'm sure that a lot of people will notice this, and I'm sure that it will help redefine the way lovemaking scenes are being made in Bollywood and Indian cinema, because no one has been this brave or this radical, I think. And this, I think this is the first for Indian cinema. So congratulations to them, and also to the censor board that allowed us to showcase the scene as is without any cuts. There have been a lot of lovemaking scenes, as we know in Bollywood and Indian cinema in general. I think a lot of them have been a bit tepid, a bit conservative, and I think the actors haven't really, pushed the envelope there. But as you can, I mean, as you will see in our film, I think that both the lovemaking scenes are quite intense, explicit as well. But I think more importantly, realistic to what they're meant to be, and realistic to the story um, and to the truth of the film. And I'm really thankful, of course, to the actors, who were willing to experiment, who were willing to be brave enough to go with this kind of a scene and sequence, and of course the censor board as well, which surprisingly in our case really appreciated the sequences and passed the film without any cuts. So a lot of people have been comparing our film with Urta Punjab, and ironically, we had even met Vikramaditya Motwane before, and we didn't know that they were making a film on cocaine and heroin. And I think that film has, of course, created waves, and that's brilliant. And it's been very well received, and of course, it's raised a controversy, which I think has opened a lot of new doors for Indian cinema and for Indian filmmakers as well. Of course, the two drugs that are being depicted, heroin and cocaine in Urta Punjab, and marijuana in our film, of course, are completely different. Marijuana is actually not even a drug, it's a herb. And it's been used in Indian culture for many, many years, hundreds of years actually. In fact, India had opposed the US-led UN convention to ban marijuana, I think in the 50s, 1950s. And so I think it's really ironical that today, when the United States has decriminalized marijuana, when so many countries in Europe are allowing people to smoke marijuana, when there's so much medical proof and evidence of the benefits, therapeutic benefits of marijuana and cannabis, I think it's very hypocritical that here in India, where we have actually the best hash and marijuana in the world, that we have not legalized it or decriminalized it at least. So I do hope that this film is able to open that debate. Of course, the film is a lot more than just about marijuana or drugs, but I do hope that it's able to open a debate within society, because I think there is a generational shift. I think a lot of young people want the drug to be legalized, and of course understand the importance of and the benefits of marijuana, and the fact that it's not the same thing as cocaine or heroin. That's something I think that the older generation needs to know about, that the government needs to know about, and of course that the health authorities also need to know about. I think all of them have done a brilliant job, actually. I mean, all of their roles are very different from one another. Like, all the four characters are very different, so it's very hard to say who's done the best. I think that each of them actually has done a great job. It's very hard for me as the director to say. Of course, I think Imad, in his case, he's very similar to the character in real life. So for him, it came very naturally, and it was almost the perfect fit. Ira Dubey, on the other hand, is actually quite different as a person to the character she plays. So in her case, it was a challenge, but I think she really nailed it and did an amazing job as well. Orithar Ghosh also plays, a character that's also kind of different from her, kind of similar, kind of different. And I think she's also done a fantastic job. And Raghav too, all of them. So, I mean, all these characters I think are very relatable to people. They're not your typical, superficial cookie cut character. They're actually, they have a lot of layers, textures, and these guys have really been able to bring that to life. Right. So actually, before we release the film, we are doing a special screening, and we would, of course, be inviting Nasiruddin Shah, and many of the actors will be there, including our cast, which includes Barry John, and of course, even Ira's mother, who's theatre actress Lilette Dubey. So I think they are very curious to see the film. They want to see the film, and I'm really excited for them to see it and to see what their response is as well.
Okay, did Nasir Saab saw the trailer? What is his reaction?
I don't know if he's seen the trailer yet, to be honest. I'm sure he has, but I don't know what his reaction is, but I should ask Imad about that. I think it's very important for young people to stand up and to speak out against injustice. This film is really about finding yourself as a person, finding your voice, and I mean, it's not so much about drugs or sex or what have you. It's more about actually a positive change in society, and I think young people are at the center of that, at the vanguard of a new rebellion. So I think it's a film that is kind of a reflection of what we are experiencing and witnessing in India today, as far as the youth rebellion and the youth struggles go, and as far as what being a young person is. So I think for them, it's hopefully a film that will that they'll relate to, but also one that would perhaps inspire them, and yeah, and hopefully it can open, it can raise a lot of questions and open a few debates along those lines.